Hey there, everybody. Type in the chat where you're from, and we will get started in just a minute. Glad to see everybody here today. Thank you for coming. Virginia, North Carolina, Oregon, the UK, Minnesota, South Carolina, Mexico City, San Francisco, LA, Atlanta, Sugar Land, Texas, Ohio, wow, Florida, Japan, Tijuana, Kenya. Wow, you are all over the place. Absolutely great. All right, we're going to get started. Well, hi, everybody. I just wanted to say hello and welcome you to the 5 Simple Steps to Booking Bigger and Better Gigs webinar. My name is Dave Kusek, and I'm your host for today's webinar. I just wanted to let you know that I'm here. We're going to be taking questions, so as we go along, type them into the chat. Wherever it is that you're coming from, whether you're just getting started performing locally or you've been gigging for years, I've got tips that are going to help you step up your ability to book bigger and better gigs, because that's what you want, right? That's why you guys are here. Everyone wants to play bigger venues and to have more fans buying tickets and showing up to your shows night after night, and to be able to reach out to venues confidently, knowing that you're going to be prepared and that you're going to be taken seriously. So I'm going to switch back to our slide presentation. We got a lot of material to share with you today. All right. And I just want to make sure you all can hear me. If you can, just say hi, Dave, in the chat. As soon as I see that, we're going to get going. Type where you are, and if you can hear me, just say hi, Dave, in the chat. Okay, there we go. Fantastic. As I said, my name is Dave Kusek, and I'm the founder of the New Artist Model and the former CEO of Berklee Online, and a mentor to literally thousands, tens of thousands of musicians, songwriters, producers, performers, and business people all around the world. And, I'm really, really excited to be with you here today. All of the gigging strategies that I'm going to share with you today are taken straight from the New Artist Model Music Business Accelerator program, which you can see right here. This is my most popular online course that has helped thousands of musicians build a career in music all over the world in literally every genre. I'm going to give you some of the gigging strategies and tips that are normally reserved for my paying members and my students here today. So if you're just joining us right now, please type into the chat where you're from. And also, everybody, if you've been here, type in how many gigs typically you play every year. Just share that with all of us so that we can see where everybody is at. Okay, just type that right into the chat. Now, as I promised in the emails that I sent out, I'm going to be giving away a free guidebook on music merchandise that includes easy, quick start tips and that you can use at your very next gig to sell more merch. There's info about different kinds of merch, how to set up and run your merch booth, and how to promote your merch. But you got to stick around to the end of the webinar to get that. And trust me, it's going to be worth your while. We have a lot of information to share with you guys today, and a special bonus that I promised you, but I'm going to tell you more about that in a little while. I'm also going to be answering your questions at the end of the webinar, so be sure to type in your questions into the chat area on the right of the screen, and I'm going to answer as many as we can in the next hour or so that we have together, okay? With me today is also Chelsea Ira, who's our Director of Marketing. She's going to be helping to collect your questions and moderate the chat, and you're going to meet her a little bit later on in the program. All right, one of the main things that I want to get across in this webinar is that you need to be thinking big picture if you want to be successful in the music business today. That's what we teach in the New Artist Model. If you want to be booking bigger and better gigs, you need to have goals and a plan of action. You need to be professional, and you need to think like an entrepreneur. You need to understand budgeting, and you need to understand how you're going to make money playing live, because it's tough. It's a tough gig. And finally, you want to be able to fill the room, because you need to be able to do that to get hired in most places. And you need to know that your audience is going to be there, and you need to understand how to promote yourself in an authentic way that are going to make them show up and support you. Just like our friend here, Saskia. Saskia is a folk singer-songwriter from the UK, and she studied with me, and she went from busking on the streets to booking gigs all over Europe, and she's making a full-time living as a musician. And Robert. Now, Robert is a great example of a very smart guy who decided to focus on a niche. It's maritime music. I mean, it's even more narrow than that. He sings songs about the sea with a modern spin from his home in St. Petersburg, Russia. I mean, talk about a niche. And he's using everything he learned in New Artist Model to book festival gigs. We'll talk more about him later. Now, I'm telling you this so that you can see that being successful in booking gigs isn't about what genre you play or where you are in your career. It's really about having a strategy, and it's about being professional, organizing yourself, and taking steps toward your goals, just like these two artists have successfully done. So let's dive into what makes up a good performing strategy, right? This is the big picture I was talking about. So I want to ask you guys right now, what are your goals in gigging? What are you trying to accomplish? Go ahead and type your main goal into the chat right now and share it with everybody. Now, maybe you want to book a certain venue, or you want to play in a certain city, or you want to book a big tour, or you want to book a bunch of festivals. Or maybe you're just starting out and you want to learn how to get out of your garage and onto the stage. You know, whatever your goal, whatever your goals are, whatever you're trying to do, you came here today to learn how to book bigger and better gigs. And the 5 steps that I'm about to share with you will set you on a path to help make your goals happen. You know, there's no silver bullet here. It's a lot of hard work and strategy and planning. So take out a notebook and let's get right into it. Step number 1 is to look at everything you need to start booking gigs. Again, this is taken from my Music Business Accelerator course. The first step is all about being prepared and researching and gathering everything that you need to properly approach venues and promoters and book the gigs that you want. Now let's take a look here. This is a gigging strategy that we call owning your hometown and growing from there. Now, every artist starts out playing their local area, this innermost circle. You start where you live and you go from there. Now, the key to the strategy is to first own your hometown, become very successful there, and then put things in place and begin to move into the outer circles over time when you're ready. It's a very specific strategy. So for the rest of this webinar, we're going to focus mostly on the inner circle. How do you own your hometown? How do you book the biggest gigs you can there? And then how to get ready to move out from there. Now, in order to execute this strategy, you need to understand that venues are businesses that need to make money. And you need to start thinking like a venue owner, I mean, at least for a while, and have a clear appreciation of what they're looking for. Venues want to book bands that they know can fill the room. Now, there are a lot of different types of venues, big and small, right? Clubs, theaters, concert halls, churches, colleges. There's lots of different kinds of venues. When approaching a venue or when doing your research, of course, the music plays a large part in the kind of bands a given venue will book. You know, a lot of venues, they have a certain vibe or a customer they cater to. Lots of venues only book certain genres of music. So when approaching venues, you need to do your research, and your music needs to fit with that venue that you're targeting. You know, if you're a singer-songwriter and you try and book a punk club or a heavy metal club, I mean, it's not going to work. And a lot of people just don't get this. Aside from the music, there's also a question of scale. Now, a venue may totally dig your music, but if you've only been playing small shows and busking on the street, they're probably not going to take a risk on you alone. The next thing that I want you to realize is that venues, they don't need to give you anything. When you approach venues or bookers, you want to think about how you can help them. Think about trying to book a given venue like you're applying for a job, because you are. Now, I'm saying this so that you can be prepared and get a leg up on pretty much every other musician out there who's just winging it or waiting on favors, right? So step one is to prove that you're a professional, that you're right for the venue, that you're a good fit, that you can bring the audience and you could put on a killer gig that's appropriate for the size of the room. That's what the venue is looking for. All right, so you want to have data as part of your research here and getting prepared. We're talking about gathering data, getting prepared, doing your research. You want to have solid numbers that you can prove your track record, that you can show to the venue. If you don't have any data, start keeping track of stuff on your next show, right? You want to have this. Here's a list of what you want to have on hand. The venues you've already performed at and what their capacity is. A list of your upcoming gigs. It's kind of like social proof that, hey, I'm out there doing this, and it reduces the risk to a venue owner if you've already got some gigs booked. The size of your social media following, the size of your email list. And if you don't have an email list or a social following, you might want to consider signing up for our online course, because that's exactly what we teach you how to do. Okay, next is your draw. How many tickets can you sell, or how many people showed up at each of your last few gigs? Now, maybe you can consistently get 50, 100, 200 people to your shows in your hometown. Let's say you're in Austin, Texas, or wherever it is that you're from. That number is your draw. And venues, they want to know these numbers. Now, many of you are going to ask me, well, what do I do when I'm just starting out and I have no draw at all? Well, one of the things you can do is to partner with other bands to get yourself off the ground. And we're going to talk more about that strategy a little bit later on in the webinar. And there are other things that you can do. You want to have an EPK. Again, this is part of getting ready. EPK is an electronic press kit. It's your online resume. You gather up a bunch of information like, what's the name of your band? Make it really clear what that is and how to contact you. You want samples of your music. What do you sound like? You only need a couple of songs that best represent your sound. Put your best stuff on there. Links to your website, your social media channels, a short bio, high-res photos and logos that promoters can use should they decide to book you. You want to have live performance videos. What do you look like when you're performing live? If you don't have a live video yet, play some free gigs and hire somebody to shoot a video for you. You need to have this. And finally, whatever reviews and press you have, that's your EPK. That's your resume. It gives a venue an easy way to kind of check you out. Okay, what is this person all about? What is this band all about? If you don't already have an EPK, there's a lot of tools and resources out there that you can use to make one. You see that right here. Another thing that I really think you want to have on hand are business cards or some sort of a one sheet with a link to your EPK. Now, a lot of people think cards are corny or old-fashioned, but it's very helpful to have a physical leave behind for people and an easy way for them to remember you and contact you after you're gone. So have something like that, okay? All right, that's step one. Now let's move on to step two, and that's networking. And I can't tell you how important this is if you're going to book bigger and better gigs. Networking is absolutely critical if you want to be successful in music today. You need to be constantly reaching out to people, growing your network, and connecting. It's just the name of the game in the business. It's all about who you know, and more importantly, who knows you. So you begin conversations. A lot of people ask me, how do I network? I'm petrified of it. you begin the conversation with somebody by asking them about them. What are they doing? What are their opinions on things? Draw them out. That will get the ball rolling. You don't need to be handing out your CDs or constantly pitching everyone you meet when you network. Consider contacting people as people and think about how you might help them to begin the conversation. That's how it works. And that's the name of the game to get started in networking. Networking takes time, okay? And it doesn't necessarily bear fruit overnight. It hardly ever does. Oftentimes, you're going to make a connection and it may not pay off for many months or many years. But that's why you want to be out there on a constant basis, regularly networking. Because if you don't, you have no chance at all of being successful in the music business. You just don't. And why is that? Because people hire people they know, not people who cold call them from some directory they bought off the internet or, mass email that you do from a directory that you acquire. The music business is all about connections and timing. It's about being the right person in the right place at the right time. Now, I know networking can be uncomfortable for a lot of you, but if you make this part of your regular activity, it'll become less awkward over time. It will. Now, a lot of musicians tell me that, hey, Dave, I don't need to be networking because I'm going to get a booking agent and I'm going to tap into their connections. Well, when you're first starting out, you're not going to have an agent. A booking agent makes a percentage of the money you bring in from playing gigs that they book, usually 10%. So unless you're already making good money playing live, no agent is going to touch you. You have to get yourself off the ground. You're going to be booking your own gigs until you can build up enough traction and income to warrant a booking agent's attention. That's just the reality. So you need to be networking. You need to be booking and contacting venues on your own. Whatever you do, don't try cold calling the biggest venue in your hometown. Don't go buy a directory of venues somewhere and start emailing them. It's just not going to work. Networking is going to be a game of slowly building up your connections in small steps, and it's going to take time. So be patient. Don't rush into it, and start in your innermost circle, right? Start in your hometown. How do you do that? You get involved in your community. You become a part of the live scene in your town or your city as both a fan and a musician. So you perform at open mics, at community events, at local store events, at farmers markets, at local company events, at local charity events, whatever you can get. And you get experience playing live and you get to know the people that are there. And that's the most important thing. Now, anybody recognize this dude? This is Ed Sheeran. And before he made it big, he played hundreds of small shows and events in and around London. And, in and of themselves, they didn't really amount to much. And I'm telling you this because just playing gigs isn't necessarily going to be, the secret to your success. It's part of it, but you need to be smart about your booking strategy and your networking and make a plan that moves you along every step of the way. So Ed moved from the UK to LA and he started networking his ass off. And a radio host named Jamie Foxx liked his music so much, he brought him into his own recording studio and he took him to an open mic where Ed got to play in front of 800 people. And that was one of his biggest breaks ever. He got a standing ovation that night and things just started getting better from there. There's no such thing as an overnight sensation, and it's your connections and your network that matter more than anything. So go out to local venues, not only as a musician, but as a fan. A lot of people don't get this part. Be present, observe other people's shows, get to know the venue, the vibe there, the people who work there, like the bouncers, the bartenders, the waiters, the waitresses, the manager, if you can get there. Now, even though these people may not be the decision makers, they might be able to make an introduction for you or recommend you So making a good impression can pay huge bennies for you down the road. Why? Because people hire people they know. And I can't tell you how many musicians try and book gigs at venues they've never even been to. It's like running blind, especially in your hometown. Get to know other musicians, other local musicians. Get to know their managers and people in their circles. Make the step up from playing small free gigs or gigs in places like coffee houses to your first real paying gig. Making that step might just be getting on the bill as an opener for another band. That's why networking is so important. All right, another thing that you want to do, and this is part of your networking strategy, is you want to create a venue database, your own venue database, a simple spreadsheet that'll let you keep track of your booking activity when we move on to the next step, where we begin pitching your live show. The spreadsheet should include the venue name, location, capacity, who the booker or decision maker is, what the contact info is, and any notes on how they want to receive submissions and pitches from people. That's really, really critical. Keep track of when you reach out to a venue, what the response, if anything, is, what the follow-up is, what the status of that venue is. Keep track of things. Now, there is a cool resource called Indie on the Move, Indie on the Move. Check that out after the webinar. It's a very cool music venue database that you can tap into with information and reviews of venues so that you can get a better idea whether a venue is worth pursuing. It's a starting point for you, okay? But nothing is going to be as important as getting out there on your own. All right, step 3. Once you've got all the networking and your research finished and you feel prepared, you can move on to the next step, and that's pitching your live show to these venues that you've identified that you're a good fit for. You need to have an elevator pitch where you can very quickly describe who you are and what you sound like and why they should care. This can be just a very short description that describes your genre, your sound, and why you are unique. So let's see. Bruno Mars, his pitch might be something like, hey, we're a high-energy entertainment that sounds like Michael Jackson crossed with Bobby Brown, and we get people out dancing real quick, and we keep them moving all night. I mean, that's an elevator pitch. It tells the story. You need to be able to tell your story very, very quickly and make it something that people are going to easily understand and remember, and set yourself apart. This is a huge part of marketing, is how to differentiate yourself, how to get people to remember you. This is the first step to getting somebody interested in knowing more, turning the conversation around so they start asking about you. So you really have to have this down. Here's a quick crash course in how to pitch a venue. All right, so many venues will have some preferred way, a procedure or set of instructions for pitching the venue. You got to follow that. When you're pitching, you need to be brief. You include your elevator pitch, a link to your EPK, your recent draw, and a good reason why you are the perfect fit for that venue. If you can, go in there and pitch a bill for them. What do I mean by that? I mean, should you be playing the venue with another band, or are you going to do it alone? What's the theme that you have in mind for the night that you're going to pitch? What's going to make your show different and something that people want to come out to see? How can you get the venue to envision what you're going to be all about that given night? You want to make it easy for them to envision your show. You'll start out in a much better bargaining position if you, say, shoot for a weeknight and you totally kill it, than if you try and book a weekend where you're really, really stretching yourself and you end up not filling the room. Start small and be successful. You know, the dates that you suggest should also be far enough out in the future that you can get some solid promotion in, which leads me to your promotion plan. Now, it's critical to show the venue that you actually have a plan of attack in mind for your show. How are you going to fill the room? That's the question they want to know. if you can say something like, okay, we're going to theme the show the After Work Adventure. And we're going to promote the show to our email list of we got about 2,000 people on our list. We're going to hang posters around town, and we're going to try and get on local radio. You might just be taken seriously, and you might just get in the door. Why? Because you're showing the venue that you've thought about it, that you're professional, and that you're reducing the risk for them, because it's a business proposition. Now, when it comes to pitching gigs, you're going to face rejection. You all know that. Anybody who's been out there pitching knows that. You need to earn the trust and respect of venues, and sometimes that just takes time. You got to be the right person in the right place at the right time. It might take many attempts to get your dream venue to book you. But just because they say no the first time doesn't mean the door is closed forever. So don't let it get you down, and don't complain about it. Don't burn any bridges with those people. Just be patient and try and figure out what is it that's going to make them say yes. What do you need to do? All right, we're moving on to step 4. How to fill the room wherever you can play. This is where knowing your audience is critical. And one of the ways to think about your audience, and a strategy that we teach in New Artist Model, and this is Marketing 101, is to divide your audience into segments and think about that. One segment might be the people who will frequent traditional clubs and just go out for the night. Another segment might be people that you're going to reach at a house show or a private venue. Another segment is people in your local community at charity events or some sort of public event. They're not going to a club, but you're going to meet them in a charity setting. Another segment might be college students if you've got colleges in your local area. Now, how you promote the gig that you're going to play is going to depend on the audience segment that you're trying to reach and the most appropriate way to get to them. So you got to understand who you're trying to get to come out that night, and then put a plan in place to get to them. So let's start with traditional venue and look at how to get local people to come out of their houses to see you play live. All right, one tactic, and this, generally works across the board, but it works for this market segment, is to create a sense of urgency and give people a reason to pay attention, because people don't act unless they have a reason to. One, because they can just see you the next time you play. And two, there's a lot of other cool stuff going on all the time. So why should they come out and see you? Well, one of the things that you can do is turn your gigs into unique experiences that people want to come to. I want you to start thinking, okay, what is going to make this gig that I'm pitching stand out from all the other shows and make people say, wow, that's cool. I really want to go to this. What is it that you're going to plant in their brain that's going to make them pay attention? All right, one way is to premiere something new. This is the approach behind a standard album release. Whenever you get the chance to put out something new, you should be planning shows around that. Now, of course, you don't have a new album every time you want a gig, so you can highlight new songs that you're releasing or new partnerships you have, say with a guest artist that you can bring that night. Or maybe you're releasing a new line of merchandise and you want people to come out. Or you're going to play an acoustic set if you haven't done that for a while. Whatever you can put together that is fresh and new and interesting to your fans is having something new to promote. Now, if you can't come up with anything new, then try turning the gig into an event by giving it a title or a theme. I mentioned that earlier. Theming is a great strategy to set each gig apart, and it works really well when you want to play with different bands. Now, one theme could be dedication night, where you cover songs from, a famous artist that's inspired you. Maybe it's Bob Dylan or maybe it's Drake. And you play some of their songs along with your own, and you create a special event. Now, this gives your fans something to talk about, and it just might be the hook that draws them out that night. Or it could be something like date night, where you put together, it's a set of love songs from your catalog and maybe a few covers, and you try and bring couples out to date for that show. Or it could be the opposite of that. It could be breakup night, right? Where your set is themed around angry breakup songs that it brings out all the single people in your hometown to all hang out together. I hope you get the idea of thinking of a theme and basing your marketing on how do I get that theme into people's brains. Now, your theme can be whatever is going to best resonate with your audience segment. So understanding who your audience is really, really important in the segment that you're reaching out to. Think about the kind of music you make and what ideas you can brainstorm on to create unique events. Maybe it's an album anniversary gig, or maybe it's a fans choose the set list. Maybe it's costume night. Maybe it's a secret guest artist, or it's a live jam, whatever. The key is to get creative and then come up with a snappy title that you can put on your posters and your other promotions and your emails that you send out. You want to try and be memorable. You want to be different. And you want to make it fun and exciting and something that people are going to want to show up for. Okay, let's move on. Now, when you're booking gigs, pre-sales is something that you really want to focus on, usually by cooperating with the venue and actively helping them promote the show. Because most of the time these days, it's up to you to promote the show. You know, the venue and the promoter, quote, is not necessarily going to do it for you, not in the early stages of your career. So knowing how many tickets you've sold before the day of the gig can be a huge security for you. And selling tickets early really makes a great impression on the venue owner or the booker, almost more than anything. Now, aside from your themes, contests and prizes are a really good way to encourage pre-sales. You can try giving out, a VIP gift to pre-sales people. Give them the opportunity to hang out with you before or after the show. That's pretty tried and true. Or maybe it's free merch night. And the first X number of people that, get the tickets, get some kind of merch from you. And it could be stickers or something that's easy and cheap for you to produce that just helps them commit to coming early. Now, I'm going to give you all a guide to music merchandising, right, in just a few minutes that you can use in your promotions, just like I'm describing right now. One of the strategies we teach in the Music Business Accelerator is to build a bigger audience by tapping into alternate venues where you can reach new people in different market segments. You can and should fill in between, your traditional venue or club gigs that we've been talking about with local public events, if you can do them, solo gigs, things like farmers markets, charity events, private invite-only events, house concerts, college gigs, corporate gigs. There are lots of different ways to play live. And there are a lot of alternate performance opportunities that you can tap into that expand your audience and reach new segments of people and, help you grow your list, help you grow your audience, but also keep that performance money flowing. I want you to think about your audience like this, as something that grows over time, like a snowball rolling down a hill. Little by little, you tap into pockets of different kinds of people, segment by segment, and you begin to grow your audience. Here's some simple strategies that you can use to grow your audience bigger over time. You nurture fan relationships by finding novel ways for people to connect with you. You actively give them reasons and opportunities to join your email list and your social media channels. And you want to encourage word-of-mouth marketing through things like contests, sweepstakes, and tell-a-friend offers. This is how you build a big list and build a big audience. Now, I don't have time to get into all of this today, but suffice it to say, in our Music Business Accelerator, we have lessons on how to get people on your email list, how to get them talking about you, how to draw their friends into your shows, and way more. But here on this slide are the basics. The whole idea is to be methodical and strategic about building your audience and building momentum so that you can get bigger and better gigs as you move your career forward. Let's move on to step 5, and that's how to break into larger venues. Now, as a musical entrepreneur, you need to constantly be aiming just a little out of your comfort zone. Otherwise, you're going to end up playing the same size gig forever. And this is something that I know a lot of you are struggling with, feeling stagnant or stuck in your local market. So you need to push yourself outside of your comfort zone. And yep, it can be scary. But you won't know if you can fill the room at a bigger venue unless you actually try it when you're ready. And you won't know if you've got the equipment or the setup for a bigger stage performance unless you actually give it a shot. And you won't know if you can rock that bigger room until you actually do it. Now, when it comes to taking that step and booking bigger gigs in bigger venues, all the things that we talked about earlier in steps 1 through 4 combined to prepare you to approach bigger venues. The research that you do, the draw that you've developed, the network that you have, the audience you've developed, your experience marketing and promoting and playing smaller shows, and your professionalism, they all come into play in trying to crack this nut of how do I get into a bigger room. One of the tried and true strategies that have been used by labels and promoters to break acts regionally and nationally is to have bands open for larger acts in new markets. But you know what? You can do this too as an indie musician. Just like the story I told you about Ed Sheeran earlier on in the webinar, it all comes down to having a network of people that you can tap into to grow your career. So think about it. In your network, do you know any bands, any bigger bands that are headlining bigger venues that you want to book into? Contact people that you know who are a little further along in their career and ask if you can open for them. This is a proven way to get into a bigger room. Now, of course, you're not going to get as much attention or money for that matter as an opening act. But if you make this happen, it accomplishes a whole lot for you. It gets your foot in the door at a bigger venue. It gives you the opportunity to introduce yourself to the staff, the management, the booker. You can show them that you're professional and reliable. You show up, and you can show them that you can rock that bigger stage. And you're going to get contact information for later on down the road when you might try and approach that venue by yourself. And number 2, you're going to build your audience if you do this strategy by getting in front of the other band's fans and growing your segment little by little. Now, as you approach bigger venues on your own, okay, I want you to be patient and realistic. You know, again, a good strategy is to try booking weeknight gigs. The venue typically is going to expect a lower turnout for these days, so it's a good way to step your game up. Just make sure that you have a really good idea, if you push yourself like this, of how you're going to fill that room. What is the capacity of that room? What's your strategy going to be so that you can be successful at the end of the night? The whole thing is to be creative and patient and stretch your comfort zone by using your network and your audience to get you where you want to go. You don't want to just go in there blind. Let me give you another example. Now, I told you earlier about one of our members, Robert Palomo. He plays maritime music. Remember, sea shanty songs with a modern Americana twist. This is a guy in Russia. He's got an Americana twist on sea shanty songs. Well, it turns out that there are these sea and pirate festivals happening all over the UK and other places in Europe, but especially in the UK, which were just perfect for him. But he had no idea how to get there, these festivals that draw people like this. So he looked into his network, and it turned out that he had a connection with somebody who knew somebody else who was connected to the Harwich Festival, one of the sea shanty festivals in the UK, and he got a gig through networking that way. And he got his foot in the door. And you know what happened at that festival? He met somebody who was working with an even bigger Baltic sea shanty festival, and he got a gig there. It's happening a little bit later next month. That's the power of networking, and that's the power of getting out of your comfort zone and building to the point where you get into a bigger venue. So let's take a minute and look at how you might get started moving outside of your innermost circle into regional shows. Again, once you've really focused on your hometown and you become very successful there, then you're ready to move out. Well, one thing you can do to get bigger gigs outside your local area is to swap headline spots with another band in your respective towns, right? You're helping your friend in your network. So say you live in Boston, where I'm from, and one of your friends, his band lives in New York City. Well, if you both put in the time to develop your local markets and you have good followings there, you can help each other by swapping headliner spots and open for one another in the other band's hometown. You open for them in New York, they open for you in Boston. Once you get to the venue, you start using all the things I've been talking about, your research ahead of time, your networking techniques to build connections in that room. And this approach will work for getting into cities that you haven't established a presence in. It gets your foot in the door, as I talked about earlier. And it can also be used to play bigger venues in your own hometown as you stretch beyond your comfort zone. Okay, in a few minutes, I'll be taking your questions. I'll be giving away the free merch book that I talked about earlier, so don't go away. In the last 40 minutes or so, I've given you 5 steps to book bigger and better gigs. We talked about how important it is to be prepared. We looked at networking. We talked about pitching venues and presenting yourself professionally. We talked about promoting your gigs and turning your gigs into events and theming them, differentiating them. And finally, we tied everything together with a simple strategy to play a bigger venue. And, 40 minutes, and this is just a little taste of what it takes to be successful and the kind of training that we have in the New Artist Model. Now, I told you in my emails that we'd be taking you inside the Music Business Accelerator, but what I didn't tell you is that I'm going to give away a membership to this program in just a minute to one of you. So I want you to pay attention. Have you noticed that the music business has changed a lot in the last decade or so? Gone are the days that where you're going to get discovered and signed to a big label deal and get tour support and big advances. That's just not happening. Instead, the market is responding to the nimble. Labels are looking for people that have gotten themselves off the ground, artists and acts that can focus on a niche and build a following quickly and create multiple streams of income. People like Migos, Florida Georgia Line, 21 Pilots, Zedd, Drake, and many others. All of these folks they're following a new model, and that's exactly why we developed this Music Business Accelerator to help musicians gain momentum and create a life in music that you all desire, you all want it. And you do that by creating multiple income streams and focusing on things that are satisfying to you. Now, what I'd like you to think about is whether tapping into a proven system for success like this is something that you would consider doing. The Music Business Accelerator, it's packed full of lessons that specifically address the problems you face, like getting people to actually buy your music or getting bigger and better gigs. We talked a little bit about that, but we have way more detail in the course. Or landing a sync deal, or how to get paid enough for all the work that you guys do. We cover all aspects of success in music today, including setting your goals, team building, booking gigs, promoting your gigs, promoting your merch, promoting your music, recording and production, distribution and sales, copyright, what's licensing about, what's publishing all about, what's social media about, how do you build super fans, How do you create a marketing plan? What does your brand mean? How do you get sponsorships? How do you create an email list and a killer website? How do you create a budget and manage your money? And how do you raise money through things like crowdfunding? All of that stuff we cover in the program. It's not a cookie cutter strategy. It's about teaching you how to think like an entrepreneur and showing you the strategies that are working in music today and providing you with the tools and techniques so that you can create your own plan and you can get to the place that you want to get to, because you guys are all different. And even more important, it's about a mindset. When you sign up, I'll show you how to harness your creativity and think like an entrepreneur, just as like we're doing right here today in this webinar. You'll know what to do next and why, and you'll have confidence. It's all here for you in one place, and it's a step-by-step system. It's really a shortcut, if you want to think about it that way, one that gets you setting the foundation for your career as fast as possible. In the first few modules, you'll get really deep goal setting and team building guides that'll walk you step by step through setting and refining your goals. We talked a little bit about that today. You'll get a time management and prioritization guide so you can quickly find a way to balance your life and your music, which is really hard to do, right? And how do you isolate the things that are going to get you the biggest bang for your buck in your career and where you want to go so you can start building up momentum? We go through all the available revenue streams, and I walk you through a process to identify what are the streams that you should be focusing on, because there are a lot of them and you can't do them all. We'll figure out which will really stand out for you and bring in the most income quickly, and we'll create a plan to start putting them in place one by one, brick by brick. We've got social media checklists with examples of how to leverage stuff that you're already doing every single day and turn it into engaging social posts and emails that you can send out. This is where you really start to develop a marketing strategy that'll work for you. Now, we touched really briefly on promotion today, but in the Music Business Accelerator, we go into extreme detail. I'll show you how to build an email list and give you email templates that you can literally plug in and start sending to your fans. You know, the thing that is most satisfying to me about watching my members in the program is that they're building their audiences and they're building their confidence and they're spreading their music around in ways that's just really, really satisfying to see when people actually get it and they move themselves forward. Just like Irenka here, who put together a strategy that allowed her to make a full-time living from her music. New Artist Model is a career development program. I hope you can see that by now. That'll help you put a plan in place to reach your own unique goals in music. So because you're here on the webinar, you're proving that you're serious about your career. You're taking the time here to invest in yourself. I'm going to give one of you right now a chance to win the Music Business Accelerator membership for free. So if this course is something that you think might help you, I want you to type "I want it" into the chat right now. We're going to pick one person, but you got to be here right now and you got to type "I want it" into the chat to be entered to win. You know, right now it's the best time to make an investment toward your dream in music. You don't want to put it off. The last thing you want to do is look back in a few years and say, man, why didn't I just go for it when I had the chance? We're going to pick a winner for this in just a few minutes. But, you know, only one of you are going to win. For the rest of you, because you're here on the webinar, I'm opening up enrollment to the Music Business Accelerator at a really special price right now. If you go to our website and you look, you're going to see that the course normally sells for $497. But because you're here, you can get it for just 12 payments of $39 a month. You can sign up for less per month than you probably spend on coffee or beer or guitar strings. And you can get started with this system, a proven system for success. You can go right there, newartistmodel.com/gig, and get the deal. You can save 20% off the regular price. Get a membership that'll take you through the program month by month for 12 months. It's a great option if you're on a tight budget, and I get it. And that's why we have this monthly membership program. Or you can pay $297 upfront and get instant access to everything, including all 12 modules, and go as fast as you want through the program. Normally, you'd pay $497 for this, but because you're here today, right now on the webinar, you can get 40% off. Because I know you're serious about your career, okay? I'm not fooling around. But these discounts are only available for 3 days. After that, the price goes up. And I know 3 days isn't a lot of time for many of you to decide to enroll in something like this. So I want to make it a complete no-brainer for you to sign up right now, right here. For just $39 a month, you can get the entire program and nearly $1,500 in bonuses that I have. Bonus number one is a private invite to our Indie Artist Network community. This is an exclusive Facebook group where you can connect with indie musicians, songwriters, and producers from all over the world. You can collaborate. You can get instant feedback on your music. You can support one another. You know, I mentioned the importance of networking. You know, you can build up your own network from the ground up, or you can tap into what we are already built, a huge network of musicians from all over the world, and have an instant community to plug into. And I'm in this group all the time answering questions and giving feedback. So this is literally your ticket to me. That's bonus one. Bonus two is a big, big database of musician resources, tools, and services. We created this so that you don't have to spend months researching what's really useful out there and what you might need to make your vision a reality. And what am I talking about? We've compiled some of the very best email marketing services, distribution options, website builders, merch companies, social tools, directories, other databases, everything you could need. Bonus number three is a collection of exclusive musician templates, a career map, a project planner, and budgeting templates that'll help you get organized and plan for success. With these templates, I ask you all the good questions a good manager would ask you and help give you a plan of attack that's designed for what you want to accomplish in music. And one more thing, if you sign up for the course right now or within the next 60 minutes, I'll give you a super bonus for signing up, the Music Business Guide to Success. Now, this is a bunch of interviews that I did with a bunch of industry heavyweights, people from Disney, Universal Music, Pledge Music, Songtown, music supervisors, producers, really great inside information from people who are running the music business. It's worth $97 all by itself, and you get it for free if you sign up right now or in the next hour. These are all the bonuses that I have for you if you sign up. That's over $2,000 worth of training for just $39 a month or $297 upfront. So please go to newartistmodel.com/gig, sign up and save a bundle. You know, if you're ready to take this next step, here's what's going to happen. That's what you're going to see when you click through. On that page, there's all kinds of info about the program. You can check it out. I'll give you an hour after this webinar to check it out. If you decide you want to go for it, just click the buy button. You'll be taken straight to the checkout page. You enter your email address. After that, you enter your payment info, a card or PayPal, whatever you got. You'll get email from us. It'll confirm your purchase. It'll give you your login info. It'll get you into the private group, and you'll be on your way. And I want you to know that you get lifetime access to everything. You know, a lot of our members have gone through the course multiple times because, you know, things change, and you can go back to these lessons again and again. And we're constantly updating everything. Program also comes with a 100% 30-day money-back guarantee. So if you have any reason at all that you don't think it's right for you, it's fine. If the program isn't right for you, it's okay. Your career is the most important thing for me. Just let me know in the first 30 days. I'll give you your money back. No questions asked. I just want you to check it out. Imagine what will happen if you sign up and you take the program. You're going to develop so much confidence. You're going to have a plan for success, just like Eric here. If you want to be less confused and lost about how the industry works and what you can do next, I can help you with that. If you want to get better gigs, if you want to grow your audience, if you want to build your brand, I have the strategies that'll help you out. If you want to build an email list and a following, you can, just like Justin did here. You know, what's your career worth? At $39 a month, this is just a sweet deal. And you know what? You can sign up, you can cancel at any time. So why not check it out? So I'm going to take your questions in just a second. If you're interested, click the button you see in the chat, because as soon as I close out of this webinar, that button's going to be gone. And remember that the super bonus is only yours if you sign up during this webinar or immediately after. It's the best time to commit to investing in yourself and make this your best year ever. Okay, so right now I'm going to get to your questions. We're going to pick a winner. But for everybody who's still here, I promised you a free merch book. You go to that same link right there, and you scroll down to the bottom of the page, and you're going to see this image, Rock Your Merch Booth. Just click on it, and you get the free ebook. You know, I'm very, very grateful that you're here today, and I'm so thankful. Go ahead and grab your ebook, and let's pick a winner, and let's get to your questions. And let's meet Chelsea.
Hi, everyone. So the winner is Laka. Congratulations. We will be emailing you after the webinar is over to get you set up in the course.
Awesome. Laka, congratulations. All right, it's time for questions. Thank you guys for sticking around.
Okay, so Charlotte asked a really good question. What if the venue doesn't reply, especially to emails? Tried showing up at the door, talked to the staff and owners, or called, but they all ask me to send emails but never reply. Any strategy for situations like this?
Well, you know, I would ask you, what kind of email are you sending them? What does that subject line say? What's going to make somebody, you know, how do you even know if they're clicking and opening your email? So that's one thing. It's how do you stand out in their inbox? Once they do open your email, what's your proposition? I mean, are you communicating like I described earlier today? It's like, what's in it for them? How can that venue benefit by signing you? Where have you played before? How big is your draw? What kind of show are you going to put on? What are the results that you expect in terms of people that you can bring to the room? What's your marketing plan going to be? So, you know, without knowing exactly what the nature of your communication is, it's hard to say. But, you know, repetition is huge in music. It's not giving up, trying different approaches. The other thing that works far better than a cold email from you is an email from somebody else that knows them, recommending you. So again, that's all about your network. If you can get somebody to say, you know, if the venue owner's named Joe, somebody can email on your behalf and say, hey, Joe, would you please just check these guys out? You're more likely to get a response. But, you know, it's not unusual to not get responses. You just have to try different things. Don't keep sending the same pitch over and over again, and use your network and see who do you know that knows them that could get you in the door. Next.
Okay, we got a few questions on EPKs that I think just needs clarifying. Mala asks, why do you need an EPK if all that information is on your website?
All right, so that's a good question. And if you have a really well-designed website, that might be enough. The thing about an EPK is that it puts everything in one place, and it makes it, you go to one URL and there it is. You don't have to kind of nav around your site and figure out, well, what do I click on to see what? So Many people do put an EPK as a single page on their website, but the purpose of that EPK is to focus a booker or venue owner or promoter in on, what do I need to understand if I want to book this person for a gig? That's what that purpose is. Your website has that purpose, but it also has a lot of other purposes. You're trying to collect emails from your visitors. You're trying to tell your story in different ways. You're trying to sell music. You're trying to sell merch. You're trying to, get people to know more about you. So your website's got a bigger purpose than just the EPK, which is really like, why should I book you? Make it as easy for me as you possibly can, and maybe I'll do it. All right. How do you save time for that booker, that venue owner, and make them get what they need just like that and say yes or no? So I hope that is helpful.
Yeah, so Aaron asks, the genre of music that my band performs, and most of our fan base is located in Europe, which is far from our hometown of Austin, Texas. What do you recommend for a band like mine where we want to perform for most of our fans, but fans are located really far away?
Well, I'd want to know more about why you think that's true, why all your fans are in Europe. How many people are there? Are they in a tight enough geographic area where you should move there? Honestly, if you've got a big audience, if it's 26 people, then that's a different story. If it's 2,600 people, that might become your hometown for a while, or at least for a summer or, a season. So I'd want to know a little bit more about why you think that that's where your audience is. And, if it's true and you literally have hundreds or thousands of people that you can reach in a different area, you might think about going there. I mean, it's very difficult to get yourself off the ground. Austin is an exception, right? It's a wonderful music town. But there are a lot of other places that people live where it's just not realistic that they're going to, kill their hometown and be able to make, relatively decent living there. Sometimes you've got to move. And I'd want to know more about your situation, but I'd get you to think about that. How many people are really there? Where are they? And should you go there for a while and see if you can make it happen? Next.
Okay. Andy asks, where I live, people are not used to buying tickets for live music. Generally, it's free to enter and listen to a live gig. It just works like that there. And venues struggle to pay us because of that. Any tips for overcoming this or alternative gigging opportunities they might look into?
Just give me the beginning of that one more time.
Yep. Where I live, people are not used to buying tickets for live music. Generally, it's free to enter and listen to live gigs.
Okay. So you're hopefully going to be paid by the venue in something other than tickets. So your goal is to get people in that room. If they're not buying tickets to get in the door, that's fine. But you want them to show up. You want them to be aware of the gig. You want them to walk through the door. You want them to buy beer or food, and your deal with the venue is going to be different. I hope you're not playing for free all the time at a club like that, but it's not selling tickets is a relative term, right? The idea is to get people in the door and get them to the show and get the money flowing however it is that you've worked your deal out with the venue. So, don't get hung up on, I've got to sell a ticket, because if there isn't one, then you can't do it. But how do you get that person to commit that, Thursday night at 8:00, I'm going to be at such and such a room and I'm going to go see you? You can pre-sell in that way in terms of getting people to know about it and getting them to show up. You can also deliver, an alternative ticket. I think I talked about this a little bit. Coupon that they can print out, or, some some little ticket that you make up on your website that they print out, and they can go to your merch booth and get something for that. Or maybe it's a VIP ticket and they get something for that. So don't get hung up on what the venue will allow you to do. The idea is to get people in the door. I hope that answers your question.
Nick asks, where could I start if I'm a live electronic band? So it doesn't really fit into the whole open mic / farmers markets type of starting performances.
Well, I mean, you'd have to look at, I'm not sure what you mean by live electronic band. I mean, DJs are live electronic bands if you think of it that way. So if you can, if you're like 10 people and you're trying to pull that off, it may not work. But if you're, a solo act and you're going in with your laptop and, your mic and your guitar, if that's what it's all about, where are DJs playing? Where are people providing music as a form of entertainment, as part of, whatever it is that they're doing there? They're either selling drinks and food, or they're trying to get people to look at exhibits, or they're trying to raise money for a charity, or they're doing something, and they want to have music as part of that event. So just start thinking, expand your definition of what is a venue, wherever there may be music. And in your case, it may be, can you be a DJ replacement? I'm not sure how big your band is, but that's how I would think about it. Next.
Okay.
Big setup, 4-piece I'm seeing in the chat. You're just going to have to look at, maybe you're in the wrong town for the audience that you want to attract, but you're just going to have to look, where can I find a fit where they're going to want electronic music? So maybe you're less of a focal point. You're more of a background activity. But I would ask you to expand your definition of what is a venue. Next.
Okay. So we had a few people talking about this, problems with ageism in the live industry and people not necessarily wanting to book older musicians. How do you get around that? What other opportunities are available if you are running into that kind of situation?
Well, you want to look at opportunities where the audience is a little bit older. So you don't try and book yourself into a room of 20-somethings because you are going to run into that. It's just going to happen. Look at private events, look at charities, look at churches, look at other public events that, maybe they're drawing a little bit of an older audience. You can look at corporate events that aren't necessarily, full of a bunch of, of kids in the room. You have to start thinking about where are opportunities to play in front of audiences that I'm going to relate more to. I know everybody wants to be that rock star and have everybody, just completely go nuts for their music, but you've got to try and match yourself to the audience that you're going to most likely reach. You have to expand your definition of what is a venue these days, because even the traditional venues, it's hard to make a living there. And what you're really trying to do is to build your audience over time so that you can move into a larger opportunity and bring people with you when you're ready. So that's what the strategy is all about, today's strategy at least. Larry, yeah, man, you got to look for places where you're going to have older folks in the room. You just got to think differently.
Okay, this one came from Laka. Does it work so if you're in a band, can you play sort of solo or duet gigs in order to promote that band and sort of elevate it in the gigging market. So the question was, does it work to promote / market a band by playing a solo or duet gig? How can we maximize opportunities that require smaller, even acoustic setups?
Well, it's a real good question. A lot of people view their band and their solo act as almost like separate brands, if you will. And the band is one thing, and you're trying to book certain rooms with that, and your solo act or your acoustic act is something else. Can you use your solo act to promote your band? I mean, yeah, you can do shout outs from the stage, and you can, of course, gather an audience in your solo shows that you can then use to promote the bigger band in a bigger room or a different venue. But for most of the people I'm working with, they're thinking of that as almost different things. So you go solo or you go acoustic because you're going to play a smaller room, or you're going to try and work a different crowd, or you're going to try different material, or you're just sick of playing with the band and splitting all the money, and you're wanting to go and get whatever you can. So I don't necessarily think that these are that you use your solo gig to promote the band so much. I don't know if I'm misunderstanding your question. It's a source of other revenue. It's a way to play a smaller gig. It's a way to get in front of a different audience. It's a way for you to maybe make a bigger percentage of whatever you're going to make that night. It's a way for you to reach different people that you might not reach with your band. And then what you do with that audience and that information and that network that you've collected to promote your band, that's a different thing. And yes, of course you can do that, but I don't necessarily think that one drives the other. They seem different to me. And Michael says in the chat, retirement communities. Yeah, I mean, Larry, I was going to say that, and I don't want. Sometimes I don't answer that question that way, but I mean, there are a lot of these adult communities. It's not like you're playing for grandma and grandpa, but you get these 55 plus communities that often have, events going on there. So that's what I'm talking about when, you're having to think about alternative venues where you can reach older people. All right, 2 more questions, and then it's time to go. And I'll just say, if you guys have questions and I don't answer them, you can always email us at info@newartistmodel.com, and we will do our best to answer your questions.
All right, this one just came in from Deborah. What's the best way to talk about and negotiate fees and money in a live situation? Any tips of making that more comfortable?
You need to value your work, and you need to set a floor for yourself. And don't play for free and don't play for crumbs. You've got to prove yourself. You've got to do all the things that I talked about that allow you to walk into that negotiation and say, I can bring 200 people to this event. So I'm not going to do it for $25. I'm sorry, I'm just not going to. You've got to figure out what's in your arsenal that you can bring to that conversation. Proof that the venue should pay you more, that you're worth it. And, maybe you have to make a deal the first time and say, okay, I'll play the first gig for X, but if I do this at that show and you get this response, then the next gig is going to be 3X. And you make that deal up front. And then you go in and you kill that first gig and your second gig is 3X. But that's the kind of thing that you got to do, is you got to prove yourself. And, it's hard to talk your way into that unless you've got a track record, you've got a draw, you've got your research down, you've got your marketing plan down, all the things that I talked about today.
Okay, we actually got a few questions about being a cover band and how that works in the whole gigging scene. Can you get bigger gigs as a cover band? And does the sort of strategies that you take to get gigs or get bigger gigs differ if you are a cover band rather than a band playing originals?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I mean, in In my experience, cover bands, it's easier to get booked. You can get booked into a larger room because the audience is going to be there for a good time, not necessarily for you, right? Not necessarily at first. They're going to be there because you're going to play songs that they know and they love. And so that's going to make them happy. People love familiarity. People love repetition. So cover bands often can, command more money, can play bigger rooms, can bring more people into the room, can get more help from the venue promoting, because they know, the venue owners know that the audience is going to respond if you can actually pull those songs off. What I recommend often is that, intersperse a few of your originals, your very best ones, at the right moments into those sets, and let people know, that those are your songs, as a way to introduce them to the audience. Because if you're in front of a big crowd and you can play one or two of your songs that are good, that's good for audience building and name recognition for you. But the flip side of that is I have so many people in the program that are just so burnt out playing in cover bands. They just hate it. They can go and make a few $100 a night playing in a cover band, but they've done it for years and they just can't do it anymore. It's just like, it's a chicken. It's not chicken or egg problem. It's a blessing or curse problem, right? So I'm not sure if that answers your question, but if you have others, please send us email to info@newartistmodel.com. And I want to thank everybody for being here today. Make sure that you go to newartistmodel.com/gig. Chelsea, if you kill your video, you can get your merchandise ebook there right at the bottom of the page. Just scroll down to the bottom, newartistmodel.com/gig, and get your free merch ebook. Thank you all for coming, for the next hour. If you want this to be your best year in music and you want to get in on this special webinar discount, get over $2,000 worth of training for just 12 payments of $39 or $297 upfront, you can do it right now. Remember, this is 3-day special only, and the super bonus I talked about, Music Business Guide to Success, is only for the next 1 hour, and then that's it. So thank you once again for being here. Thanks for spending time with us today. I hope I got to your questions. I hope you like the show. I hope you like the presentation. One more time, if you have questions, and you can email us at info@newartistmodel.com. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Thanks, Chelsea, and I hope that we see you guys next time. Have a great day. Thank you, everyone.